Yes.
One of our other cameras near the scene very briefly did capture an encounter between police and a protester, and sadly we had some kind of an issue with the camera. So I'm hoping to have more of that to bring you, but we did in fact see that there was some kind of encounter with officers, at least one of those protesters. And as Kim made an excellent point, they were all under arrest. And so conceivably, every person coming out of that building should have been taken into custody by police. Instead, as Kim mentioned, a show of force as they ran.
Bonnie, we'll let you do. We'll let you make your way and take a look at the situation and assess what's going on there. We want to pull away now and talk to the chief of police. Bob Day is joining us right now as we take a look live at state troopers positioned on the Portland State University campus.
Chief Day, good morning. Are you there?
Hi, good morning. Yes.
Boy, we just saw a very dramatic scene as we saw many of these protesters that were holed up in the building just make a run for it. We weren't able to capture what happened next. Do you know if officers were prepared to encounter them and take them into custody? Because we know they were told they were all under arrest if they were still in that building.
Yeah, correct. So beginning early this morning in cooperation with Portland State University and their security and police team, we have been preparing for the ability to secure the library. And we've been doing that through a very methodical approach all morning long, just going floor by floor, providing lots of warnings, lots of information, lots of opportunity for people to leave. Yes, the announcement we made is accurate, is that people were under arrest. And yes, we have people outside the library, prepared to take folks into custody. As you just witnessed, there is a dynamic there where there's a number of people who run out all at one time, and we still want to make sure that we are complying with our rules, orders, laws around safety, around use of force, the ability to take people into custody. The primary goal here to remember is to secure the library, to return Portland State University back to fully operational. And the investigations that need to be conducted and the follow-up pieces that we can do does not mean that these people will not be arrested at a later date. Those that we weren't able to get today, we can try and pursue down the road.
Take us through what happens next, Chief Day, as we take a look at the state troopers positioned here on the campus now, moving in for the first time, and where we go next, because clearly this is not something that appears to be ending anytime soon.
Yeah, so once the library is, completely cleared, nobody's supposed to be in there at all. Once that's taken care of, we will return that to Portland State. They'll be responsible for securing it formally. We are going to continue to work with them to provide a police presence over the next several days as the university returns to normal. And obviously, any arrests that have been made will be turned over to the district attorney's office for prosecution. We have a relationship with them. They're on the ground working alongside of us. And then we will also continue to support PSU in the investigation of the vandalism and the trespasses and other crimes that have occurred over the last several days.
Chief Day, I want to get back to that moment when the protesters left the library. We're looking on the other side of the screen at officers lined up, in a formation, but it seemed just from my untrained eye that the protesters had a clear path out of the front steps of the library just to scatter in the streets of Portland. I mean, would that have been by design? Why not a line of officers to encounter them as they're running? Was that just part of the plan to let them run free?
Well, I'm not going to speak to specific tactics right now. I really have a lot of confidence in our team, our incident commanders, and the people on the ground. So I'm going to defer to their judgment in this case. Obviously, every situation is fluid, dynamic. We constantly are evaluating to see, and we'll do a, clear review of all the actions taken today. But once again, I am empathetic to the fact that a lot of us have strongly held beliefs about ways that we want to express them. But this has been a criminal event. And so we've approached it from that standpoint. And in that regard, I believe, if we can make sure that the building's secure and that Portland State can operate fully and we can follow up on the investigations, and I would consider that to be success.
Chief Day, of course, people have the right to free speech, but Portlanders, some would argue that this turned into a criminal event a few days ago when they broke in and entered and the vandalism took place inside. Can you speak to and answer Portlanders' questions of why it has taken to this point to move in to get these protesters out of the building?
Yeah, so obviously, this transpired over the, weekend. Monday evening was when they breached the library doors. First of all, we always want to work in partnership with others. So Portland State University is the responsible party here. They have lawful authority and control over the building. So we wanted to make sure that we were in alignment and meeting their requests and their needs. And then, as you mentioned, because of the significance, the size and the scope of this as a criminal event, we want to make sure that we're utilizing all resources possible to minimize risk to life safety and to be able to provide opportunity for de-escalation, of which that did happen. Some people did, in fact, leave over the last couple of days. But at some point, it also needs to come to a stop, and that was the effort today, to bring this to a stop and bring it to a safe conclusion.
All right, Chief Day, we're being told, I have another question for you, but we're being told we have some video of protesters actually clashing with police. Pretty dramatic video we're looking at right now. I don't know if you can see us live on the air or not. There's probably a bit of a delay. But it does seem as though they were trying to take these people who were fleeing the library into custody. And my question is, at this point, what is the process for trying to track these people down? I mean, is there surveillance video inside the library potentially? Do you see this being an active process to try to find every one of these people and take them into custody?
Well, I can't see your screen, so I can't speak to that. What I can tell you is that, we take all these charges seriously, that we will be, supporting Portland State University and their police department in their investigative efforts. And, with the hopes that we will be able to bring charges appropriately. So, and we are working closely with the DA. So if we're able to identify those folks and make those cases, I'm confident that they will be prosecuted. It's really a lot of similar, not unlike other cases that we have in terms of large scale demonstrations and events where we take, people into custody, and sometimes we don't get everybody right away, but we get them later. So that's going to be the same approach we're going to take.
All right, Portland Police Chief Bob Day, thank you for taking the time to speak with us this morning. I know you're quite busy with what is happening there at Portland State and leading those operations, so thank you very much for your time and your insight this morning.
You bet. Thank you, and be safe.
Thank you. All right, we want to get to Joe Vithiathil because Joe is standing by near where these officers are now standing. Joe, did you see that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Shauna. Go ahead.
Were you in could you see when those protesters ran out of the library and started clashing with police? Is that where you were located? What can you tell us?
No, we had moved. We were at a different location when that was happening, apparently, I'm guessing. And then we moved to this location directly across from the library. So no, we did not see that happen as you describe it. Since we've arrived here, and we again moved from a different location on the other side of the library, and that was about 10 minutes ago that we arrived here. We haven't seen any I don't know, action or whatever you would want to call it. We just have this line of police. Obviously, they're lined up here in front, directly across from the library. We have a large crowd of people here, but we haven't seen any sort of police actions or anything like that, or people running. None of that. Just people, obviously, here. It's a very emotional scene. People, chanting "Free Palestine." They chanted "shame" at the police officers that were here. But otherwise, that's been it. There has not been any sort of movement here. It just seems to be the police here lined up. Essentially letting the public know this is it. You can't go past where we are right now, and the library is directly behind them. So the area where all those operations would have been taking place is just across the breezeway from where we are right here. So no, just to explain, we haven't seen anything like that at all. So that's where we're at right now. It's just kind of like waiting and seeing, but we haven't seen any sort of any of that movement that you're talking about, Kim and Shauna, from our vantage point right now. It's just a lot of people, a large crowd gathering, and then these police just forming this line. Yeah, and there's another chant going right now, but that's pretty much what we're seeing right now. Is just a bunch of people chanting and the police officer standing there. Yeah, go ahead.
This scene has changed dramatically from 3 hours ago, more than 3 hours ago, when we first brought the police presence to our viewers at home. Can you spin your camera? Give us an idea of the crowd that you are seeing there. It's grown larger. It's grown louder.
We'll do it. We'll do our best, but I will tell you it's so close quarters right now that it's going to be very difficult for Michael to maneuver the camera there much. We're like literally in the middle of a huge crowd. So that's what's going on, is that we are like literally in the middle of this huge crowd right now.
Okay, hey, Joe, we're going to cut away now to a different camera. This is Bonnie, as we're seeing people being brought out of the library. Bonnie, this is your shot here. Tell us what you're...
We are watching police exiting the library with 3 people, I believe, 3 protesters with their hands behind their back, and I believe their hands are in zip ties. The police are escorting those people right around the corner of the library. So we thought maybe the building was cleared after that really chaotic moment. We saw about 40 or 50 protesters all of a sudden leave the library. It is sort of an intense situation, because as soon as that crowd of protesters left the library, things really got loud and protesters leave. We have one protesters trying to get in our live shot right now, so I think we might have to move, guys. I think for now we're going to send it back to you.
All right, Bonnie, thank you. Things are getting very emotional there on that scene. I wanted to clarify something from earlier, and I don't know if we can turn the video around that quickly again, of the encounter of police with protesters, maybe after we watch this, but I thought we were having technical problems. It turned out our photographer's camera got hit during that scuffle, and that is why we lost that signal. So, this is video from one of the arrests that was made. But if we can at some point turn that video around, kind of show you again as the protesters were running out of the library in dramatic fashion in a large group, and just seemed, from my perspective, what we could see, to clear on out. But there were some officers there, you know, waiting and encountering them. And that is what happened when we lost our signal. We were not able to see the rest of that encounter.
All right, we're going to get back to Bonnie Silkman once again. She had moved out of the way because she had a situation there that she wanted to make clearance for. Bonnie, what is happening now?
Hey, guys, we had some protesters kind of giving us a problem, so I'm not sure if we want to continue to go live. No worries if you have to pull away from our shot. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But we
Bonnie, we'll pull away
are
from you.
watching
Bonnie,
the situation.
Yeah, we need you to be in a safe place. So if you're being hassled by those protesters, I think we are going to let you find some peace for a moment, and then we'll check in with you.
Okay, let's go back to Joe Vithiathil, also on campus at PSU this morning, for the very latest from his scene. Joe, take it away.
Guys. Yeah, guys, just a lot of people moving around right now. I'm not really sure what's going on. We had a bunch of people that were basically yelling at police. They're moving apparently to another location. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if they're going to where Bonnie is, to her location. But there is a group of people that, again, were yelling at the police, and they've now moved to another location. What station are you with? So that's what's going on right now, guys. I'm not exactly sure what's happening, but that's what's going on right now. Otherwise, the police haven't moved. They're still here. Only right now. But that's almost KPTV. That's what's going on right now, and yeah, there's no real news to report in terms of anything happening here. Otherwise, again, a large group of people left. That's all I can tell you. But I'm not sure where they're headed. Things actually just got a lot quieter because there was a lot of chants going on and that sort of thing. And now a lot of folks have left. The police are. Okay. So the police, this police officer right now is telling people that if you cross the yellow line, you'll go under arrest. So not to cross the yellow line. I don't know if they had a situation where people were doing that. Some of the police tape has come down. So yeah, she was just saying that if anyone crosses the line, they'll be arrested. She just made that announcement to the people that are gathered here right now. So there you go. But And then people were chanting, "Let them go," because we saw some people that looked like, being taken into custody. So in the distance, you can hear people, "Let them go," is the chant going on right now. But that is, again, I'm kind of, while I'm talking to you guys, I'm kind of got my head on a swivel here. I'm just trying to see what's going on elsewhere. But yeah, that's from what we're seeing from my vantage point right now is basically people are just chanting. Some people are chanting, not many. It's quieted down here a little bit, but that's the situation right now, Kim and Shona.
Joe, thank you for that live report.
Shona,
it's a bit of a chaotic scene.
It is. Let's bring people up to date on what we saw here from our vantage point several moments ago when we saw protesters come out of the library.
It looked like a planned exit. So from our perspective, and I don't know, it takes a little time to get the video turned around for you, but we saw all at once. Here we go.
A large presence of people coming out of the library.
Before this, we saw several people, probably dozens, maybe 2 dozen, not quite sure, storm out of the front of the library and down the steps. Then they were running, and then this is what they encountered. We do have another piece of video that shows them coming right here.
Here we go.
This was the moment that clearly they decided we're just going to make a run for it. They broke through their own barrier and just ran. It appeared to be just to freedom.
And it appeared that from our camera view that we had here, that not many, if any, were captured at this location. We see that encounter with the police officer right here, but many people were able to make their way, as you see in the background, people running, and then soon after, we saw Oregon State troopers approach on the truck.
Exactly.
And that is when they dismounted and made their way onto campus where we see them now. But this is one of the more dramatic encounters we saw with officers.
And in fact, our photographer's camera got hit so hard that he actually lost his signal momentarily as we were trying to bring you more of this coverage. But, we did talk to Portland Police Chief Bob Day, who told us he wasn't going to, at this point, question sort of what was happening on the scene in that moment, because it appeared to us that they were many of them were able to just somehow get free despite the police presence on campus. But he said again, the main priority was to secure the library, to get things back to normal on campus so students could get back to class, could have use of the library. They will be trying to find the people who did get away, but as you saw, many of them running throughout Portland.
And if you weren't with us earlier this morning, at about 6 o'clock this morning, we saw officers come onto campus, and it was quite peaceful at that point. They were keeping their distance. Police tape was up, and we saw officers even on the steps of the library. But then things escalated a little bit as the morning went on, and we saw some movement. But it was quiet for a period of time. Officers announcing to protesters if they didn't leave the library that they would be arrested. And then eventually, as the morning continued, the officers announcing that they were under arrest.
That's exactly right. They changed their tune. They gave them some opportunities to leave. I think a couple people did leave in that moment. But as soon as they said anyone in the library is under arrest, we didn't see much movement after that at all until that moment that they stormed out of the library and ran away.
Something that I don't think many of us expected, and because we did see a couple of people, and we heard of a couple of other arrests. Joe Mathiathel earlier had showed us somebody in zip ties, but to see the show of force come out of the library at that point, you were saying possibly a couple of dozen people, and then making a run for it with what seemed to us from where we are sitting here in the studio, not a lot of officers, at least in their near vicinity. They may have been off at a distance more so.
Yeah, and it was interesting because we'd seen officers lined up, sort of creating a fortress around the perimeter, but in that moment, we didn't see that. From at least our perspective, obviously we're sitting at the news desk, we're watching our photographers' cameras live, but we couldn't see that there was a barricade of officers trying to stop them. And I asked Chief Day, was that by design, to avoid confrontation? He didn't really know at that point, and I'm sure we'll be discussing all of these things as the days continue.
Yeah, and we've talked about what's happened inside the library. Our colleague Julia Lopez made her way into the building last night and captured quite a few images that we had not been able to see to this point.
That's right. So with more on that, Fox 12's Mia Villanueva is live with some of the pictures and video that Julia brought to to us.
Yeah, Kim and Shauna, first I want to show you this tweet from Portland Police Bureau Alerts. They pushed out this tweet clearing up rumors that they had tear gas on them. It says officers actually have standard issue, less lethal launchers, which they use for public order events like this protest. Take a look at this video, though, of officers entering the building. So they tweeted earlier that this is the start of a slow, methodical process to clear the building. And you've been watching that play out all morning right here on Good Day Oregon. And now we want to show you exactly what they're seeing inside. So take a look at this. This is what the library looked at, like at around 1:30 this morning. As you mentioned, Kim and Shauna, our reporter Julia Lopez was there. A lot of graffiti on the walls there, some of it reading Free Gaza, more reading Love, Not Genocide. Julia says not too much damage to the building itself, just barricades of furniture. Portland police confirmed in a tweet that they have been seeing those barricades as well. When Julia was inside, though, she says it was pretty empty. She said she did see people clearing up their spaces. Some of those spaces have tents, as you're seeing in this video. A whiteboard in the library also instructed people to protect the books inside as well. And again, officers may still be inside of the building. Clearly, you're seeing a lot play out outside as protesters storm out of the building, officers in lines around the building as well. We have 3 crews there on scene again. We have Bonnie Silkman, Joe Vithiathil, Carly Olson there as well, monitoring that situation outside. And you just watched dozens of protesters exit the library. Prior to that, though, we know police arrested 2 people, surely much more now after that storm of protesters left that library. But again, this situation is reaching a boiling point at PSU. Stay with us right here on Good Day Oregon for updates. For now, Kim, I'll send it back to you.
Mia, thank you very much. Thank you, Mia. All right, we want to get back to Bonnie Silkman now on campus at Portland State University. Bonnie, what are you seeing now?
Well, good morning. Not long ago, where I'm standing is where a crowd of protesters collectively left the library and went running, and they started just ripping things off of their faces. I found these goggles on the ground. Some of them were wearing this. You can see helmets and other items just scattered around the lawn. You can see a makeshift shield. And over here, you can see one of the bottles that they were holding. If we pan to the left here, you can see a spilled bottle, and it's a dark liquid inside, and it says motor oil. Someone wrote with a marker on the outside, motor oil. And we've seen quite a few of those bottles. So this is exactly where that big group of protesters left the library together. So no idea if there's still protesters inside. It is a huge building, the library here at Portland State University, and we're looking past the makeshift barrier right now at police. I can't quite tell if this is Portland police or state troopers, but they have been inside the building after this occupation, and they've been just clearing it out. They have been running into barricades. Again, if you are just joining us, this has been a really active, fluid situation out here at Portland State University. We know that a group of protesters of about 75 people broke into the library here at campus on Monday, and they have been here ever since. Maybe 3 minutes ago, we saw about 4 people being taken off into custody by police with their hands in zip ties. Down the line here, we can see a line of state troopers, and across from the state troopers, a group has gathered of protesters chanting "Free Palestine, Free Palestine." So this makeshift barrier was created by the protesters since Monday. It's grown and grown every morning. And now we're watching police starting to move some items around, probably clearing the way and making space. So you would have to imagine if anyone is still inside the library, they will probably be brought out soon. Again, police still going through there. We had a reporter, as you just saw, inside the library at 1:30 this morning, and she saw just a lot of graffiti. And I can see graffiti outside of the library building and inside. So we have a group of police officers kind of regrouping. So things really, really escalated. We brought you that moment live when that group of about 40 or 50 protesters just ran across the lawn. We did not see any clashes with police, but I believe some of our crews did see. So that was a really, really chaotic moment. We saw the group of protesters exit the building together, and they sort of regrouped. They looked at each other, and then they broke through their own barricade and just went right running throughout the streets of Portland. And we've been told that all those people will be under arrest, or that anyone in the building is under arrest. Okay, now I believe I'm going to toss it over to Joe V, who's got a different eye on the situation.
All right, Bonnie, thank you very much. So we're on an opposite side of the library here, where we now have a group of protesters. Basically, it appears to be a human blockade that they are attempting to make right here on the street, because as we pan up here, you can see we have police right there. They have people in custody. I've counted 2 right there in that crowd. We saw them put another person in that back of that police van right now. People obviously that were arrested, we saw them, taken into zip ties and that sort of thing. So they're now processing them, putting them into that van. Now, the only way out, at least as far as I can tell, would be to eventually come back down this road. And these folks have made again, it looks like just a human wall to prevent them from leaving with anyone in custody. They're chanting "Free Palestine," as you can hear. And yes, we do have a number of folks here that are basically, they're not moving. Now, the police have not attempted to move them yet, but they have made this human wall here, essentially, that will make it, unless they move, very difficult to move any vehicles in or out. And again, right now, from our vantage point, so we're on the other side of, there's a dormitory right here. On the other side of it is where the library is. So just to give you a little sense of space on the PSU campus. And then right there to our right is where you have those police vans, and people have been processed there, loaded into those vans, sitting in there. We saw our first arrest that I saw here in person around 8 a.m. This morning, so about an hour and a half ago. And so a lot of the folks that were out in front of the library and had been basically protesting there, chanting at the police, that sort of thing, they have now moved here, because this is where the people that have been arrested, at least some of them, this is the point where they're being processed and put into police vans, presumably to go to jail. But as of right now, this whole area is surrounded by people, and again, they made a human wall that are chanting "Free Palestine," and they are right now not moving. They are waiting. We are waiting to see what happens here. So that is the situation. But I can see from my standpoints, there's some police officers putting some items in plastic bags, putting that into the police van. It might be the personal items of the people that they took into custody. Not exactly sure. But there you go. So we have, from my count, 15, 20 cops here at least from our position, at least 20, probably more than that. They've been loading people into that police van, and I've seen at least 3 people in custody here in the last 10 minutes or so, Kim and Shauna, but everyone here again kind of forming this human wall.
Joe?
We'll see what happens if police tell them to move or not, but that hasn't happened yet. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm seeing, police are there, state troopers are there in support. Is it mainly police, or have you seen extra support move in as these lines have formed, these barricades of people have formed? Are you seeing more of a police presence move into your area?
No, because Kim, we've moved a couple times. So when we came here, yes, the presence here was bigger because they were processing people, but we haven't seen any more rush in the last 5 or 10 minutes, if that makes any sense. But again, we've been kind of moving from location to location. Yeah, they just have this whole area right here. Basically, you see where that Portland police van is. Supposedly, that is the line that we're not allowed to cross. At our other location, the police had basically said, if you cross the illegal line, you'll be arrested. So right now, people are adhering to that. They haven't crossed the line, and they're chanting, but that's it. But no, I haven't seen a lot more officers or state patrol or what have you show up in the last 5 or 10 minutes or so. It looks like we might be able to see somebody being taken into custody there. I can't really tell. My camera's actually going to do a better job of zooming in and be able to see that better than I can from my vantage point, because as you can see, it's become very crowded here. Yeah, go ahead.
And I just want to let people know it's 9:30. You are watching Good Day Oregon as we continue our live coverage of the situation happening at Portland State University. A lot of activity there this morning with police making arrests of protesters that were occupying Miller Library. Earlier this morning, you showed us you had witnessed at least one person being taken into custody with zip ties. Can you give us an idea of how many more people you have seen? Because we've had different camera angles from the campus this morning.
Sure.
What have you personally seen from police in bringing people out with zip ties?
I would say personally the number would be 4, Kim, that I have seen with my own eyes, because we had one earlier and then 3. So we saw one earlier. We went to the front of the library for a little bit. Then when we came back, we saw 3 more that have been taken into custody at this location. So for my count, I have seen 4, but obviously the number is probably much higher than that. But that's what I have actually seen, is 4 people taken into custody. One was well over 90 minutes ago. The other 3 in the last 10 minutes that we have seen. Again, it's easier actually for the camera to pick it up because he can zoom in here, but that's what I've counted. I haven't seen any more than those 3 people that I saw in the last 10 minutes.
All right. Joe Vithayathil, thank you. We're going to pull away from you right now. We'll be checking back with you. We want to get to some of our other coverage this morning of the situation at PSU.
Yeah, we're seeing new pictures from inside the library that Portland police have posted onto X. And this is just showing what they're encountering, some of the graffiti you can see there in this picture. And, you know, they were encountering barricades throughout the library, which they said they expected, mostly piled up pieces of furniture, trying to block them from entering. As you see another piece of video there as they go inside, you'll be able to see those piled up. It looks like chairs in the corner there. But again, at this point, probably still going through the library methodically, trying to make sure no one else is inside.
Yeah, there are several floors to Miller Hall. In fact, our colleague Julia Lopez had gone in last night, did not go above the 3rd floor. It was suggested to her not to do so for her own safety. But this is video taken from this morning for earlier when police had gone through the building. We want to turn away from this now and go to back to the scene at PSU.
That's right. Bonnie Silkman is in a different location, also at PSU. You were having some protesters being, you know, a little bit harassing to you the last time we checked with you. What has been happening where you are?
They have moved on. They're not here anymore, so we're in the clear. It seems like it's sort of a calm moment, but there's a lot of ebbs and flows this morning. It's a really fluid situation. So I'm standing right where a group of about 40 to 50 protesters collectively ran out of the library. It was a really intense and chaotic moment. They were dropping items. You can see some things are scattered. There's some goggles, a helmet, some makeshift shields, and there's a bottle that says motor oil on it. So that was a very chaotic moment when we saw all of those people, what looked like a sort of a collective move, and all of a sudden they broke through their own barrier and just started running across the lawn here at Portland State. So we know that this occupation started on Monday. If we want to go live again and show you, we can see some movement down the street. It looks like state troopers are walking up to the library right now. So it's a really just active situation, and there is a group of protesters making their voices very, very heard. They're saying free, free Palestine, and they're telling the cops to go home. So if you're just joining us, I'm sure you've seen the protests happening all across the country at different college campuses. You know, Portland is part of that story, and things did stay very peaceful up until today. We did see some clashes with police as protesters protesters refused to leave the library, and despite multiple warnings from police to leave without facing any repercussions, people stayed inside. We now know at least a group of 50 or so people stayed inside despite warning after warning from the loudspeaker from police. And then at one point, I don't know why they decided when to leave, but at one point they all gathered together and they ran right across here where we're standing. And that's why you see some of the things scattered on the ground. So the Portland police had been saying anyone inside the library is now under arrest. And then we saw that group of people just run in the streets of Portland. So I have no idea how that's going to work with police tracking those people down or if they'll be facing charges. But right now we do have a group of people down there, I believe, with our other crews. And down that way, that's where one of our photographers got hit by one of the protesters running by, and their camera kind of got moved. So we're going to keep watching this situation, and now I think we're going to check in with Joe, who's got another perspective for you.
Guys, thank you very much. Yeah, so we're back here live, Bonnie, on the other side of the library from your position, where we just saw another person. This is the third in the last 10 minutes that I've seen put into that police van right there. So on my count, there's at least 3 people in that van. There may be more. I saw one other person taken into custody about 8 a.m. At this location. If you know the PSU campus, we're basically a kitty corner from the library across from the practice field right there. And yeah, we can see now we have troopers moving in here towards our location. And we're going to see what happens right here. They do have riot gear on, obviously, batons, and they're stopping right there at that spot. I don't know what that increased presence here is about. These are state troopers, it looks like, that have shown up here now. But they have just shown up to, I guess, join the ranks of the Portland police that have been here, again, arresting people and putting them into that police van. As we mentioned earlier, we have a human wall. We have people that have formed a human wall here, basically blocking the road that any vehicle would have to take to get out of here. So I don't know if they're going to tell these people they have to move. But we'll see. Right now they haven't. And these people have been abiding by, they've been staying where they were told to stay. They've stayed behind the police tape and that sort of thing. But if this van's going to leave, it's going to have to probably go through this location where you see this human wall has been formed. But again, yeah, increased presence. We saw, by my count, it looks like another 10 troopers maybe that have showed up here. And we have protesters talking on bullhorns right now. So that is, let's stick with this, because here come the troopers. Stay right here. The state troopers with their riot gear are moving in towards the crowd right here. Again, there's a human wall that's been formed, and we have the troopers now moving in directly towards them right now. These people look like they are not planning to move, and we have now officers right now face-to-face with them in riot gear with batons. We're going to see what's happening right now. Again, this human wall has been here for about 30 minutes, attempting to block, I would imagine, the police vehicles from leaving. There are multiple people in that police van right now that have been taken into custody. And so we now have this group of people here that have formed this line. It has remained peaceful. It's only been words. It's only been chants up until this point at our location. I want to stress that. But we're going to see what happens now, because it's obvious that something is, they're preparing for some sort of motion here. I will say that, the troopers some of them are armed with what looks to be, we're in very tight quarters here, so it's very hard for us to move our camera. We'll do our best, but it's very difficult to get a different vantage point. But we do have state troopers with what appears to be non-lethal weapons, whatever you want to call it, that sort of thing. But it's right now, it looks like a standoff of sorts. We have the state troopers, again, in full riot gear. And they have some sort of projectile weapons. It doesn't look like an actual firearm per se, but some sort of non-lethal arms on them.
And Joe?
And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, earlier this morning we talked to a retired captain from the LAPD who was involved in crisis response support, and he talked a lot about these specific scenarios when you get a wall of people blocking traffic or in a road, and how much of what they do is meant to de-escalate, and they will often just say, at some point it will come to, are you prepared to be arrested? We are going to arrest you. Will you submit to being arrested? So,
right.
You know, we don't know what kind of conversations, but I know after talking to him that much of this has to do with just hoping to encourage them to disperse on their own before they have to take any sort of action.
Yeah, and as far as I can tell, Sean, I haven't seen them say anything to these protesters. They literally just formed a line in front of them. So if what you're talking about, if they said anything like that, I haven't noticed it. They have literally just been like facing them at this point. That verbal option is given. I haven't noticed it just yet. We apologize that it sounds like our shot froze there for a second. But as of right now, they're just basically just staring each other down. There's not been any dialogue between the two sides. They have the chants going, but again, the troopers here on site and the police have not said anything. They have not told the people here they need to disperse. They have not been told they need to move, but we're preparing for that at any minute. It looks like that Portland police van that we saw earlier where people were being loaded into, it's closed up. There's no longer a police presence around that. So I would imagine that means that whoever is to be loaded into that van is in there now. There's no more, the police presence you're seeing now is in this area. Again, any vehicle will have to go right past here to leave. And these people are not moving right now, but in fairness, they have not been told to move either. They have not been told to disperse. That has not happened. They are just sitting here, or they're standing here chanting.
And Joe?
And while police and state troopers are watching. Yes.
For people not familiar with the Portland State University campus, and maybe they are, but give us an idea again of your exact location and the logistics of the roadways here and the ins and outs of this particular location.
So we're on the intersection of Montgomery and 10th. And 10th is the street that they'll have to take to get out of here. That's the street that they're blocking right now is 10th. Directly to the left of our location, across the street, is the practice field. That's where, you know, the football team practices. And then across from that is the library, of course, that we all know about. That's been, you know, occupied for several days now. But that is where we're at, Montgomery and 10th. And 10th is what's blocked right now. And, you know, again, if a vehicle is going to leave, this is the route they're going to have to take in one way or another. So, but again, there's been no order to disperse. That hasn't come. We've not been told that we have to leave. Yeah, go ahead.
We've seen quite a dramatic change in the scene, at least since we've been on the air, Kim, since 6 o'clock when things were very peaceful, that people were still holed up in the library. Now it seems people are out of the library, but just since you've been there, Joe, things have changed quite a bit.
Sean, I got here at 8 o'clock. So, you know, not 2 hours after it all kind of started, the police action here. And yeah, at this location, it was not like this. More of the presence was obviously out front of the library where people were, and that's where the police action obviously initially happened. But now, I think, you know, word got out that the people that were being arrested, this is where they were being brought to. And so we saw large numbers of people make their way here to protest the people leaving. But it looks like the vehicles, I want to point this out, the vehicles have turned the other way. So they were pointed this direction like they were going to come out this way. And just in the last few minutes, they've now turned the other way. So I don't know if they have the ability to get out in that other area. But it looks like some police vehicles now are moving in the opposite direction of where we are right now. They're all headed in that direction. So this wall will not block anything. It looks like they're leaving in the other way. The word is getting out now. People are saying, hey, they're going the other way. And it sure seems to be the case that they may, in fact, be getting, going the other direction. We see more officers now getting out of the back of that van right there. A fair number of them appears to be getting out of there. And so now some of the people are now moving because I think they want to try to block the progress of these vehicles because, again, it looked like they were going to be heading in this direction where we are on 10th, and now they have all turned around, and they are set to, it looks like, try to make a move in the other direction and go around away from where we are right now. So, again, you have this large wall of protesters that were attempting to block the vehicles, and now it looks like the vehicles are pointed in the completely opposite direction. We'll see. Maybe that's why they haven't been told to disperse, because the police were, planning. Okay, the vehicles are leaving. The vehicles are leaving right now, and I will tell you, in at least one of those vans, I know personally I saw 3 people loaded into those vans in police custody. So they have left right now. They're leaving along with other police vehicles, and you can see a number of protesters are following them. They are moving now to the other side of the building. That's happening right now. So it all got really quiet here real quick, guys. Again, we had that human wall. The human wall is still there, but those police vehicles with those people who were taken into custody, they went the other direction, and they are now driving in the.
All right, I think we lost Joe's shot there. It looks like Joe's shot got frozen up. But as we're looking at this, a very interesting development. Joe, thank you. As it looks to be, a large group of these people who were protesting are now moving to a different location. We'll definitely check in with Bonnie coming up in just a few minutes to see if maybe it looks as though they're coming to her. But right now, we want to welcome back. He joined us earlier this morning, and for those of you just tuning in, Brian Bixler is a retired LAPD officer, 27 years at LAPD, was a captain there, was the officer in charge of the crisis response support section at LAPD for many years. Brian, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
For people just tuning in, why don't we revisit some of the things we talked about when it talks about the de-escalation efforts by officers. I don't know if you're able to see our live stream, but we saw, a lot of the protesters are now out of the library, but there's a large group of protesters that are on the street. They had formed a human wall in front of officers who then went to stand right in front of them. And as I'm watching live, many of these people are now walking away. I don't know if they're setting up somewhere else. Talk about the efforts that officers make. They didn't make a move at all other than just standing there as somebody's shouting and pointing at them right now. What is the process here when you're trying to remove people from blocking a road?
So yeah, I was watching the live stream, and you see great restraint because a lot of times, and I've been on those lines, and these people who are protesting, we often say they're exercising their First Amendment rights, but a lot of times what they're trying to do is provoke a response from the police officers. They get very personal. They'll make personal attacks to the officers. They will, try to elicit a response. Because when we respond, then they get to be seen on TV and they get some notoriety there. So that's when you see these officers just standing still, they're not going to do anything unless they are directly attacked or provoked, or they're given an order by their officers to move the crowd. And we try as much as we can to get the crowd to move without using force. So you see the officers standing shoulder to shoulder with their batons at the ready, but again, just ready to do what is needed to protect themselves, to protect the public.
And is the idea that just standing there facing the line of protesters will be maybe intimidating enough that they disperse? We don't really know what happened. It seemed as though a message was sent to the group of protesters to maybe set up somewhere else because they all left very, very quickly. But is that part of the idea, just to sort of hope that some will just walk away on their own because they feel intimidated?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not so much intimidation, it's protection. So they're protecting an area. If we want to control, make sure that they don't get back to the library or breaking things or hurting people, we want to provide a blocking force, which is what they're doing. Now that becomes hard because the longer you stand there, the more heated things can get, as you saw a lady walking by yelling at the police officers, and I can only say that's probably not anything like this gentleman now. It's probably not good, and it's so it's not intimidation. We're trying to protect. And KPTV, we would always say it's much harder to stand on a line than to move, and we want to actually move the crowd. So it's not intimidation, it's protection.
And another thing that you touched on the last time we talked to you that I thought was important for people to hear is that, if people are sitting at home, especially while the protesters were inside the library, and they're wondering, well, why can't they just go in and bring them out? You made a point, and our police chief, Bob Day, made the same point. It's about safety. It's about, it's not necessarily about physically removing people unless their lives or others' lives are in danger. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah, and I think I listened to his interview, and he was well spoken, and he said it well. That we're there, one, protect life safety, two, to protect property, and three, to restore public order. And so that's what they're doing. So now you see they're getting back into a squad formation, and they're going to move. And as far as the protesters, a lot of times they're texting each other, and they're saying, hey, there's too much police presence here. Let's go over here. They're trying to be mobile and get their point across. They're trying to say, either go to a better place to protest, or in some cases they want to try and prevent others from getting arrested, or they will even try to take people away from police custody, which we've seen many times. And I think in one of your videos earlier, as one protester rushed a police officer, and was that one right there was getting taken into custody, the crowd tried to pull him away from police custody when he was clearly under arrest. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on there.
Yeah, and we should mention that what we're watching is now on tape from earlier this morning when the people who were in the library did run out of the library. Some seemed to get away. Others, of course, encountered police, as you were just talking about. Talk about just sort of maybe a little more about the restraint, really the priority, because I think people get frustrated to a point where they want police to do more, but you're saying there's an important reason that they don't. There's an important reason that they do show restraint, and they don't want to interact directly with these protesters.
Exactly. So, we want to make sure that, one, again, it's life safety. So the more times we engage in a physical altercation with a suspect, with a protester, there's more a likelihood that either the police officers get hurt, the protesters get hurt, or both, and that's what we want to avoid. So a lot of times, like we said, you see these people running away, and we can investigate. This is all on video. We can identify people by, tattoos, whatever it is, clothing, and go and prosecute them later, as we've seen in many other instances. So again, it's life safety, and as police officers showing restraint, we don't want to go chasing after people because there's a higher likelihood of injury to everyone involved. So that's it. We want to make sure that, again, it's life safety, it's protecting property, and it's restoring